No, it never really changes. But in the last month, being able to mix in and see some players that are playing at the highest level, having so many of them now, it's awesome. And kind of what we're in this for, frankly, to win. But how we win is really important to me, and developing them so they can achieve their dream of being a major league player. And that's spanning over 4 schools, right now, and pretty awesome.
What made each of those trips, I guess, unique? The trip to LA and the trip to DC the other day.
Yeah, I think Paul obviously got called up. Our season was going on, so it's impossible to go maybe see that first one. And then I was just kind of looking at the schedule, and as soon as he pitched in the All-Star game, found out he was going to throw like every 6th day, and then kind of started doing the math, and then realized we were going to be out there for the area code games, which is the biggest recruiting event probably for us, or tied for first. And so it lined up really well. And as far as standing out, like just sitting there right behind the plate and just looking at it, didn't look any different than, throwing against, whoever, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Kentucky. It just was against the Dodgers. And just super impressive. And, and then last night or Monday night with Dylan, just, as I was just telling Bill, like the person is exceptional, and just to see that, it's surprising in the context of Major League Baseball, of guys accelerating to get there that fast. It's not a surprise at all when you know both those guys. So super proud of them, and I think it's cool to be able to sit back and go like, not only did you have one guy, completely defy how everything goes, but 2. And they were here on the same team, and that's how you have a legendary team, like we did. So it was awesome.
Is it sort of fun to watch the games as a fan?
Yeah, I kind of, I don't have any kids, so like I kind of get how the parent feels, in those deals of, whether we're trying to strike out Shohei Ohtani or get a hit off Garrett Cole. It's pretty cool, and it was a lot of fun. Glad I was able to do that.
Getting to your team in terms of players coming back from injuries, Jaden and Chase, where are they right now, and where's their progression?
They're doing great. Jaden had a good summer in the Cape Cod League, and the goal was to get out and pitch. And I believe he had 9 appearances and was able to recover and pitch again, get some of the learning or experience underneath his belt that he has not been able to get. He probably got hurt at the worst time possible, which was right before his freshman season, and it essentially kind of canceled out, 2 seasons, even though we tried to get him back last year. So he really needed that experience, and I think that was really, really positive. He's done a great job with his body. He looks as athletic as he's ever been, lost 15 pounds. I think it will help him move better and help him, stay healthy. Chase, doing great. His progression, he was hurt maybe a couple months after that, right in the middle of that year. But we got him up facing hitters up to, I would probably say mid-July, and then felt very good about where he was at, and then making sense of what we want to do for the year and going into the year. Stopped him for a little bit, got him restarted. Both of them will pitch fully with no limitations once we get to fall baseball, and then have a good ramp into the season. So very happy for those guys. When we got here, that 22 recruiting class, I mean, nobody was more important, than those 2. And obviously, Jared has done great. Griffin has done great and moved on to professional baseball. Those 2 were probably 2 of the most talented guys. So to finally, feel like we have them and they're going to be healthy is great.
Can you talk about William Smith and how you plan on using him?
Yeah, that's right now. It's getting acclimated to everything, and our summer programming was really good. I want to throw a massive shout out. Jordan Pinella from the football staff came over here in our strength and conditioning period with those new players, and it was really critical because there was a week before the draft actually took place, and did an exceptional job. I mean, a couple guys gained 10 pounds or more. The structure of it was great. His energy, like that's our football staff needs to make sure that they hold on to him. So he came in for that. I think it helped get acclimated, at least, the conversations we've had. He's begun kind of his ramp back up and throwing after a long high school season. I mean, he was throwing a complete game every time out. And so there was a rest period and a reboot, restart, and he's in the middle of that now. We'll get him on the mound probably next week, and he'll have another 5 weeks before he's starting up. We will do our fall practice. October 10 will be the first official day of fall practice. We'll run that through the weekend before Thanksgiving. And the reason I like doing that is it's good for the pitcher's health. They can kind of get here, get settled in, get into like a 6-week deal with Coach Yeski with plenty of bullpens, stand-ins with the hitters, live at bats, and then into scrimmaging. And so his talent is exceptional. His feel for pitching is exceptional. And right now, just wanted to get him acclimated to just being a normal player on this team. I think he's going to be very successful here.
You guys were obviously very busy in the month of June and July, just kind of adding talent. Just wondering if you could walk us through maybe going into the offseason what you guys wanted to accomplish in the transfer portal specifically, and obviously you guys made out pretty good with all the pitchers you got and a couple of the outfielders.
It was a unique year, and I think it stems from the fact that over the last 2 seasons we've had 22 players sign professional contracts. That's a massive number, and something that I'm incredibly proud of, and everybody that's involved in LSU baseball should be incredibly proud of. I would be curious, maybe over a 2-year span, if that's maybe the most, ever. And so what happens is you're going to have a little bit of a void with age, experience, maturity, because you only gain that by being in college and being in college baseball. So we had to do more, to have the type of talent on the roster that is necessary to compete the way we're forced to compete in the league that we're in right now in the landscape of college baseball. And so with that many guys going out, like we had work to do. I think it's like 17 pitchers, 16 or 17, have signed a pro contract over a 2-year period. There is no choice other than going and building the pitching depth necessary to have the type of talented team that you want to. On the position player side, I think we were very aggressive in, maybe looking at how the game is played now in college baseball, definitely in the SEC relative to physicality, strength, the importance of the extra base hit. And, I think we added like close to 80 home runs, the guys that we brought in the portal. I was just down there and saw 3 of them right now for the first time. And the bat speed, the physicality, the conviction of what they're doing stands out. And we needed an infusion of that. And I think they will complement the returning players. And there's only 12 of them that played in a game for us last year very, very well. And it's 2 days, 2.5 days. There's been zero adversity, but we're off to a good start. And I'm really pleased with those players that we added. And happy to answer any questions about any of them, but I think we did a good job.
2 days in, you were talking about getting off to a good start. Behind the plate, you go from having a ton of experience in terms of LSU experience to none.
None.
Talked about what you're seeing behind the plate with your 3 guys.
Yeah. Again, they've had 2 days of just receiving some pitches from some pitchers and flat grounds and the beginning of their throwing program. I think the first thing that will stand out is attitude. That position is to be a servant of the pitcher. And if you go to a major league game and you talk to major league pitchers, there's guys that they like to throw to because they know the catcher is invested in their success. And right now, that's kind of my first charge with those guys is like, can you be the person these guys want to throw to? Because you help them be better, you help them execute. They know that you're there for them and really no other reason. And so I was not here Monday because I went to the game, but I got some really good feedback from pitchers on the staff, and I got some really good feedback from the coaches, just in terms of how those guys were communicating, operating in that manner. And so other than that, we got a lot of work to do.
Not a lot of guys returning this year, but you got some of those freshmen, and obviously Steven, Jake, Ashton, to name a few. How can they take a leap from year 1 to year 2?
Yeah, I love the guys that we have returning. I think we have the right players and people returning, in terms of the 12 guys that played for us last year. And then obviously we're fortunate, to add, get Chase Shores back. You mentioned those 3 guys. They got experience that only 6 other players in the entire SEC got, which was to play just about every day as a freshman. I think there was 9 on the 14 teams that played the majority of the games. We had 3 of those 9. So I think they can benefit greatly from that. I think, Ashton had a terrific summer, obviously well documented, and I think did something really impressive to me is, he goes out and he plays all those games and is playing every day and playing effectively. He also put on about 15 or 16 pounds while he was doing that, and you have to be incredibly committed. And I don't know that we have a more committed player to their craft in our program than Ashton. Like, he is the bar and the example for that. Jake was off to a really good start up there and then had a hand injury. He got hit with a pitch in a hand that needed time to heal. He's healed. He's 100%. He's swinging the bat in. We'll get him pitching again. But he did a nice job with not being able to get those at bats of coming back, and physically he looks really good. Like, I kind of caught myself walking down the hallway the other day going like, whoa. And so hats off to him, for being able to do that in the midst of an injury. And then Steven had a foot injury at the end of last year that was just kind of aggravated when he went and he played 1 game when the freshman Team USA thing. And then to me, it just didn't make sense. I mean, he gave us everything he had there, and there was no sense in disrupting that. And I think the rest did him really good and is in a really good place right now too. But I love that we were able to get those guys in there and really didn't have any other option than to do that last year. I think they'll all 3 benefit from that, and I think our team will benefit from that.
With your pitching staff, a lot of new guys from smaller schools, but a lot of them have pretty loud stuff. Was that sort of a priority to bring in guys with bigger fastballs, pretty big stuff, and just in terms of?
Good question. I think the need was pitchers that could get outs at this level. And again, I think it's only a positive. Like, big boy's doing pretty well, and might win the National League Rookie of the Year. I mean, Luke and Gage are like 2 of the best pitchers I've ever had. And, obviously the Reds and the A's felt that way too, and drafted them high and paid them. And then you look at all the good relief pitching that we got. A guy like Griffin, Thatcher certainly had really good moments. Like, you're basically peeling back probably 10 of your top 12 pitchers from last year have moved on. So I think volume was really important. Variability is certainly important to me. Jacob Myers, great fastball, great strikeout ability, 200-plus innings under his belt. I mean, I sat there and watched him, go toe-to-toe with Luke Holman in the NCAA tournament the year before as a freshman, going, this guy is plenty good enough to pitch anywhere in the country. And I'm very excited about him. Preparing for Wofford and looking at Zach Cowan, I'm really glad that he threw twice in the conference tournament and they didn't throw him in the first game of the NCAA tournament because of the volume that he threw. That would have been a very difficult matchup. But he's very polished, very accomplished. Again, another 100-plus inning, 120 or whatever, around there, strikeout type guy. So feel great about that, whether it was Devin Sheeran, Connor Benj, Chandler Dorsey, on and on and on. We just needed some volume and we needed some experience. Picking up Cooper Williams, he's a freshman, but late, helping with the left-handed thing, evaluating players over the last, couple years. Like, that was a guy like I really wanted. He had a very deep ties to the school he was originally committed to. And so, we were excited when he was available, after that coaching change.
In terms
No
of
one in
leader,
particular, but what's the challenges of recruiting a 2-sport star, football and baseball?
I don't know that there really are any. I think it's challenging for the player, to be able to operate at a high level. I think, if you were to do that, you'd want to do it here. Long before I was here, I know that, previous coaches had success with that both on the football side and the baseball side. So it can be done. I think when you look at the best players in both spots, I mean, we're a unique school where we could say, well, we've had the best football player 2 times in the last 5 years. And we've had 2 of the best college baseball players ever, just on 2023 team. So to me, it would be a place where you'd want to do that. I will say, if that were ever to happen, we'd be in an incredibly great spot. That operation over there is run at a really high level. And I've gotten a chance to get to know that a little bit better probably this year than ever before, and Coach Kelly and how they're operating. So I would be very comfortable with it. I think it comes down to communication and having a plan, and we have a very good plan in place, should that ever happen.
In terms of leadership on this team, you can point to Tommy last year. Who do you want to emerge, or how do you just let it happen in terms of people taking hold of this team in terms of your players?
Well, I don't think, at least it's not my style to ever just let anything happen. That's just not how I'm wired. I think when you talk about leadership, it's like, what is it? It's, everybody will say they want to lead by example. Well, leading by example is just only doing what you're supposed to do. So in that regard, you should have an entire roster of players that are leaders by example. But leadership is positively influencing others, by what you say, what you do, and moving them all in a good direction. I think that starts with character. Does the person have character? I think then it is confidence. Do you have self-confidence to operate at a really high standard where you're going to do what you say, therefore you can require others to do that, and then everybody's positively affecting each other. So, it's something we want to have at a high level, being intentional about building it. I do think there are some very good candidates. I think I would rather, operate under, we're going to be intentional about how we're building it, and would love to come back at a more appropriate time and saying there's a team full of guys and move in that direction.
Who are you guys looking at?
Kind of building on that a little bit. 2 of those guys that kind of moved out last year were Hayden and Alex. From a leadership perspective, were right there at the top of the team. But just your catcher situation here, you got Blaze Priester coming in, and Kate Aaron Beatty. Just kind of how do you evaluate kind of where you guys are with?
Yeah, I'm excited about what we were able to do. I think we have 4 guys that are going to all get time at that position, and we will evaluate each of them. I'm very comfortable putting in a game and have specific skills that can definitely help us at that position, improve us at that position, and put our team in a good spot to win. Kind of going through them, really in, I guess, alphabetical order. Kate Aaron Beatty, freshman, had some draft opportunities. He's been a well-known prospect for a long time. It was very important to me that, as the West Coast dude coming out to Louisiana that nobody knew anything about, that we did recruit really well in Texas, and that's one of the first big dominoes, and we've been very successful. We are very successful. I think if you look on our roster, I think we have 9 players from Texas, and that was a big deal. He has immense talent. He has one of the best throwing arms I've ever seen from behind the plate. He's got great power, and he's a physical kid, bat speed. And I think so far what's impressed me with him is attitude. He was here for the summer period, so it's a week before the draft, and then the draft happens. And I'm really proud of his belief and conviction in himself as a player to postpone professional baseball and come here. I think couldn't be more excited to have him. Luis Hernandez, transfer from Indiana State, hit 24 home runs last year, hit 360, has good receiving ability. He did not catch there a lot because they had one of the best defensive catchers in all of college baseball. And obviously he was a really productive hitter, so he was protected in that regard. Really excited to have him here and think he has a chance to be a very good contributor. Really proud of Blaze Priester. He was here my first season and was a little short of being ready for what this is, as most freshmen are. Just as I said, there was only 9 position players that played every day in the SEC last year, 3 of them which were at LSU. So the jumps that he made were very impressive to me. How he gets in a squat, again, incredible throwing arm, manage a pitching staff, receive. He has tremendous power. He's a much better athlete. To give you some kind of insight on that recruitment, I wanted to make sure this was the right fit. So the last day of the fall recruiting period, I went to see him play and was blown away by the improvement. And he backed it up with 2 really good junior college seasons, and very excited to have Blaze back. And then Eddie Yammon from Dayton, again, very similar situation to Luis, where those guys were the marquee offensive players in their program. And my guess is their coaches wanted to protect that. So the catching thing kind of became a secondary piece. And Eddie is a really good athlete, so they moved him around, but he can definitely do it too. Real positive feedback on him. So it'll be those 4 guys. I don't anticipate, having to move in Jared or Ethan back there. We may, if we have to cover ourselves, and it's certainly okay if they have to do that. But I like that starting spot, and I really believe all those guys will get an opportunity.
What's the next step in the progression of Jared? What do you want to see this year?
Yeah, we had a good talk about that the other day, and I think it was remarkable. Again, an example of, LSU, playing freshmen, which is hard to do in our league, was Jared. I think he had over 160 at-bats as a freshman, hit 300, 14 home runs on a national championship team. And that's impressive, going from high school baseball anywhere, and now you're in the College World Series and, taking at bat against Josh Hartle from Wake Forest, who's one of the best pitchers in the country. And I thought he did a great job that year. The strikeouts obviously needed to come down, and they did come down. I think, the next targets are making sure his body is in position to be a versatile defensive player, whether the Cleveland Guardians want to draft him next year and put him back behind the plate, that he's put himself in an athletic position to be able to do that. I don't think there's any question about the first base defense. He was excellent last year, in whatever type of play, going and getting a pop-up, fielding a bunt, digs and picks around the bag, and he's certainly a great target to throw to. So I think that was good. I think on the hitting thing, his power was outstanding. I'm very comfortable with where the plate discipline is at. He does not chase outside the zone. I think, looking at, taking contact maybe to another level on certain types of pitches in the zone, to me makes him a can't-miss prospect, because you can't find that power ability against good pitching hardly anywhere. And I think we got lucky, to get him back. And very happy to have that.
Yeah, going into the draft, what would have been the percentage you would have put on having the opportunity to have Jared come back? And were you surprised kind of how it shook down and just from a lip?
Yeah, I thought maybe, I would put 25% on coming back, only because I would draft him, and I'm probably the most critical evaluator of our players of anybody on the planet, because I see them every day and, want to work in a manner where they can be successful every single time they step on the field. And again, he has a tool that is darn near impossible to find nowadays that pro baseball really, really values. I've been to a lot of big league games, and it seems like all they do is hit the ball over the fence or strike out. And I think he's more than that. You know what I mean? So the only reason I put it low was because my thoughts on him as a player. We had a very good meeting in June, so month probably still to go before the draft, with him and his family and myself. And, I commend him. In this day and age, he loves playing here. And, he could articulate it more, but there was a desire to put us where we all want to be, where we were 14 months ago, and kind of be towards the front of that. And loves playing at LSU. And so when you have 12 guys, to have one that was a big part of the reason that they came back, it's a big deal. And, it's one of those things. The draft eligible sophomore, it's become more prevalent recently, because I don't know if parents figured this out, whatever, like 18 years ago, to maybe start school a year later, and then the draft getting pushed back, even just 1 month. Like, that's opened up far more draft eligible sophomores. And his eligibility fell on the very last day. I remember hearing that when he was a freshman, and I was a little annoyed by that. But here we are. And he'll be ready for pro baseball after this. He'll be in a great position to really help an organization. He's in a great position to make those strides, as I just talked about.
Who's in the running to play third base this year, and what do you expect to see?
Yeah, I'll say this, and I love the interest. I mean, this is awesome. Like, having all you guys here, third day of school, and interest in our team, and I really appreciate that. Every position this year is completely open for competition, so I will start by saying that. I don't want to get too far down the road and say, like, hey, this guy has this spot. I don't feel that way right now. I think this team we have some star players, in my opinion, but it's a sum of the parts type team. And I don't know enough about a lot of the guys to speculate. I'm very comfortable with what I would call the infield group. And, obviously we're fortunate to get Michael Braswell back with Jared, and that helped the infield group. Daniel Dickinson, in my opinion, the best, transfer position player out there. We were able to get him to come to LSU. Michael Ryan is a terrific talent as a young player. David Hogg has immense athletic ability. Tanner Reeves, it's taken forever for him to get here, relative to the time that he committed, but I'm really high on Tanner Reeves, like really high on him. So I'm really comfortable with where the infield group is at, and I think there's going to be a ton of competition.
What did Chris Martin, why did he intrigue you, and what does he do for you to bring him in as strength coach?
Glad you asked that. Couldn't be more happy to have Chris here. I think that position is so important. I mean, it is so important. I'm sure you guys hear Coach Kelly or football coaches talk about this all the time. And in going to these major league games recently, the physicality of, let's say, the Atlanta Braves or the Philadelphia Phillies or whoever is ridiculous. The physicality of teams in the SEC right now is ridiculous. I remember my first year at the SEC tournament, all 5'7" of me got stuck in the elevator with some dudes from Arkansas and Tennessee, and I immediately got to the bottom floor, called the strength coach, and I said, we need to fix this. And I said, part of it is me and recruiting, and part of it is you and what we're doing. And so that position is really important. So I'll start there. Chris was an easy choice in an incredibly thorough process. Like, we did not rush this. I did several rounds of Zoom interviews with people. I talked to people. The Astros are probably the most progressive organization in baseball in terms of player development. Them and the Rays, I would probably give the highest marks to. He's very in tune with that. So our players want to go there. And you're taking maybe one of the best organizations and somebody that's instrumental, the rehab coordinator that's probably within days or months of being the big league strength coach for the Houston Astros. So they're trusting him to, at this time, work with Alex Bregman. It's a pretty good endorsement. So then you go back and you go, okay, what's the substance of it? The substance is this guy is incredibly intelligent. He might get mad at me for saying this, but I actually opened up his transcript in the application. I don't think he got a B in college. I think the youth of him is great. I think energy is one of the most important qualities that people can bring into our organization. I wanted to get younger as a staff. Most importantly, I wanted somebody that was going to be incredibly bought in. And as you start peeling back the intelligence and the character of this individual, I think we hit the jackpot. And so excited about this. And then, I did say, I would like you to stay for multiple years. So I will credit our administration, Dan, really stepped up in knowing the importance of this. And, my hope is that we'll be able to do that. But we got a real good one.
Between Cade, Derek Curiel, and William Schmidt, I mean, how surprising was that to get, high caliber guys, high caliber freshmen like that to actually come to school?
Well, I think the recent success helps. When you look around the major leagues, Dylan and Paul basically skipped the minor leagues. You know what I mean? Trey's in AA. Jacob Berry's in AAA. As of yesterday. So they're just choosing to use this as their low minor leagues, and credit the guys that have played here. The last few years, in terms of showing the path for those guys. And I think it's a unique environment where here, I would say college baseball, but definitely here, they know they're going to be around people that care about them, and they have a vested interest in their success to develop, because their development helps us be successful. And professional baseball, like, there's 167 players in each organization now. I mean, so a catcher, goes in, and I just use the Astros as an example. They probably have 25 catchers in their system. So it's a tough road, and, it's been awesome to go see some of those guys here over the last month, and just to pick up right where you left off, and just like, it's great I love doing it because I love those guys and get to see them, but to feel like, hey, that's reciprocated because you helped them get there, and they know that. And I think these three know that what they're going to get here far more than they know what they're going to get in a professional organization, and I commend them, because money changes people often, and it did not change it for them.
Is that part of your recruiting pitch specifically? Like, you're in front of, say, William Schmidt, for example, and you're like, I was in Los Angeles last week to see Paul, and that could be you if you come here. Is that like, are you using those direct comparisons? Like, what's the pitch?
I don't even think in this case, because so many people care about LSU baseball, and you all do such a great job of putting it out there, we don't even have to do that. And, again, those two are special. Nobody has to come in here and try to do that. I think it's great that it shows that it's possible, but we're not even asking them to do that. We're just telling them they're going to get our best. You know what I mean? I can go to my administration and talk about needs, get a great strength coach, that has done this at the highest level that they want to play, and be supportive of a very thorough process that they're all involved in, to get that done. Commitment to nutrition, the dining hall, so that they eat, so that they can take advantage of the best years of their life where they're going to develop physically. The coaching, between LSU major leaguers and as many as I have playing in the big leagues right now, you can see it. You know what I mean? You can see it. So, and then the pro teams see it too. Just look at the first round. There's less and less high school players going in the first round every year, because, to get, to go have to figure it out against Hagen Smith, Caglione, Rhett Lauder, Brandon Sproat. You can't get that anywhere else. And they're going to call you up to the major leagues when they believe that you can help them win, and you learn how to win at LSU.
I think at times last year, we were talking about still figuring out the pitching staff and things like that. Is there anything you could do at this time of year, in the fall, early portion of the spring, to kind of get a better handle on who you want out there, who you want to use?
Yeah, I think so. Now, we did lead the country in strikeouts. I think, we had, in my opinion, one of the best guys in the country on a mound to finish out a regional, and we're a strike or a check swing strike and an out away from playing a home super regional, which would have given us a great chance to go back to Omaha. I think, again, I'll say this and I respect everybody so much in our league, like, I don't know that it wasn't our player developing fast enough or us necessarily figuring it out. Like, last year's team was incredibly challenged, and because I think the offense needed to do a better job to support the pitchers when you're playing a road series at the national champion and the number one team in the country over 3 weeks, and you're sandwiching that between Florida, who's in Omaha, and Vanderbilt, who's been the best or one of the best programs. I think we got challenged, we got exposed, and then we figured it out. I think, answering your question, I'm evaluating things constantly, and I think in fall baseball, I've come up with a way that will help us figure out, okay, who are the top 10, and, there's certain things you have to do to be able to execute in that. And then you recruit and build the staff a way they can complement each other. And I think there's really good variability in this pitching staff. And I don't know what it looks like. I think there's more than 10 guys that can be those 10 guys. And I think it's going to be incredibly competitive to be in those 10. And I think we're going to be a little further along. I think having this be Coach Yeski's second year is great. And, I thought he did a great job last year. You're inheriting a pitching staff where a lot of them pitched in Omaha and kind of had their way. And I thought he did a good job of working with those guys around what they had already put in place. And we got better as the year went along. And now I feel really good about that. I'm excited to find out more. Like, we're not there yet, nor would I expect to be, but I'm excited about doing that.
You mentioned the inexperience of the offense last season. That's not going to be the case this year. You have, 5, 6 returning starters from last season. How much does that sort of benefit you as you try to figure out this new pitching staff?
Well, if they become better players, which historically our players have become better players the longer they've stayed with us, then it benefits. And then I just think the depth on the position player side and competition is going to be fierce. Like I said, there is not a starting lineup today. There's an open dry erase board with 9 spots that, you could go a lot of different ways with. And I'm excited about that. Certainly the hope is those guys improve, the guys that come in acclimate, and we find a winning combination. I think the good thing, or at least the thing I think about right now, and we got a lot of work to do to see where we actually are, when the real bullets start flying, but there's a lot of interchangeable parts. I don't think we're hostage to, hey, this one guy has to do it, or it's going to be really hard. Or if this guy gets hurt, we're in a bad spot. I don't feel that way at all. And I'm excited about that.
Do you have a fall schedule?
Yes.
lined up?
Yeah, we do. So a couple details on that. So as I mentioned, October 10, we'll start our, 20-hour weeks. It's a Thursday. We'll run that to the weekend right before Thanksgiving. The Purple Gold World Series will be that weekend. So I think it's the Vanderbilt football game weekend. That'll be our alumni baseball, homecoming, if you will, weekend. I think November 3rd, we're going to play Samford in Biloxi, Mississippi at the Pro Park there. Really looking forward to that. They always have a really good team. And then November 10, the next Sunday, we'll play Louisiana Lafayette at Louisiana Lafayette. I always like playing Coach Deggs because they do a bunch of stuff, incredibly disruptive, that challenges you, exposes you a little bit, and puts you in a better position if you play one of those teams in the spring, which we did with Wofford in the NCAA tournament. And I thought we handled the baseball very well to make sure we won both of those games. So we'll probably play them. I want to go down there. I want to get on the road with this team, and I want to do it at, maybe difficult times, like the Sunday after the Alabama football game on a Saturday. So
you guys are going to stay the night down
in Biloxi, yes.
Saturday.
Yeah, we're going to scrimmage there on Saturday also. So we'll run our full practice and inter-squad on Saturday, November 2nd in the park, and then we'll play Samford on November 3rd.
Isn't that where you had a game with Florida State when you first got here, but it didn't happen?
Yes. So the second year, we were going to play Florida State there in the regular season, and I was really excited about that. They made a coaching change, and the game dissolved quickly. And, having taken over 3 different Division I programs, I get that. I understand that. And they've tried to get us over there, and it's hard to walk away from this, with non-conference games in the spring because of how good our fans are. And, very few places in the country feel like a super regional on a Tuesday night. And so we want to be here and play here. So that I'm open to going over there sometime. It's got to fit. And then, you get back-to-back road SEC weekends. You don't really want to play on a road anytime during SEC play, or at least I don't. So just it's kind of been more of a logistics thing, but those guys are great and they've been very communicative, and I thought this was a good way to, dip our toe in that water and go over there and do that.
I know I know you've done this in the past, but just it says that Jake Brown's going to be outfield / left-handed
Yeah.
pitcher. How much pitching do you expect him to do this fall? And just
Yeah,
kinda-
yeah, he'll pitch every weekend this fall. If a lot of our guys are on a 2-inning or 3-inning track, he may be on like a 1 or 2-inning track. He's a very talented pitcher, and with the volume of lefties that we had, and the progression he was kind of making as a position player, we peeled it back to try to focus on that. I believe he can be a very impactful pitcher on our team, and the expectation is him to be a full-blown two-way player. And the scheduling piece and monitoring his body, I mentioned how good I thought he looked physically. I think he's in a better place to be able to do that.
With the versatility that you picked up this offseason with the positional player group, and that combined with everything you've sort of talked about in terms of, it's 9 open spots and we're just going to see what happens, was getting those versatile players by design so it would, create even more competition with different spots and just develop more depth within the positional player group?
I think having competition will help drive improvement. Like, I think that's just natural. And it's not just for playing time. It's like we have to be more competitive if we're going to beat the number 1 team in the country on the road in the SEC. But we have to be. Like, that's just part of it. So maybe a response to that, I think it comes down to being able to match up. And if you look at the 10 teams we're going to play, and they have a lot of work to do in figuring out their teams as well, but it could be pretty close to a 50-50 split with right-handed pitchers you see, left-handed pitchers you see, different type of change-up guys, right fastball guys. So having different options of putting guys in spots to be successful, and just it worked out. Like, those guys that we have, coming from whatever you want to call it, mid-major programs that were incredibly successful, like, they're fired up to be here. Like, this stadium is, if you ask Luis, Indiana State's ballpark doesn't look like this. There's not the same amount of gear, in Eddie Ammon's locker at Dayton. Anthony Ianson was talking about, like, maybe they didn't have a food hall for athletes at UC San Diego. So I like the attitude of those guys coming into it, that they're incredibly grateful for this, and I know they have a lot to offer us as a team. So there's a lot of work. We certainly didn't get everybody. The guys not even call us back, in the portal, and that's okay because I'm happy with the guys that we got.
What do you sort of like about Ianson? What sort of jumps out about him to you?
I think he's a great competitor. I think it's elite pitchability mix. I think he was handled right growing up as a pitcher. And what I mean by that, I went to a great high school, Lakewood in Long Beach, and he didn't overthrow as a young kid. Like, he actually talked to me a lot about how he was handled in, like, youth baseball and travel ball and all that stuff. And then at Lakewood, operated with pitch limits and kind of spiked maybe after, like, the main recruiting period in high school, and ended up at UC San Diego. And Eric Newman's a friend of mine, and he's a heck of a coach. And so he developed more at UC San Diego as well. And then he decided he wanted to make a move, and I'd known who he was enough, like, that we were going to do everything we could to get him. I like the competitor. I like the athlete, the belief, the conviction. I like how he walks into my office. Like, he's excited to be here. And there's an edge that, good pitchers that have towed that mound here for a long time, I feel like he's going to bring that along with some really good stuff.
Have you given any thought, I know it's a little bit early, but have you thought about how different this ballpark's going to play with no foul territory?
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm really bad at this. Like, whether it's like you fix something in your house, like, or like this, I can't quite see it yet. I'm anxious to kind of get the nets up and have all the work on the field done to, like, see it. But I was looking over there at, like, this sharp corner. It's like, well, you're going to need to throw the ball accurately from shortstop and third base. You know, it looks like. I mean, carry him and go to the dugout, down the line. You know, the foul ball thing, that's a real thing. So I think it's great. I think it's good to, you know, get the fans closer. I think it's legendary, especially along that third base line, of how our fans will welcome the opposing pitcher. Yeah, the left fielder, whatever. So I'm all for getting them close, and you know, my understanding it's going to produce revenue, and that's never been more important than it is today in college sports.
Anything else?
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.